An elephant standing in a field of grass cannot eat the grass, not with its mouth. It cannot lower its head far enough to reach the ground, and it never will be able to. Think about that for a second. The largest land animal alive is built in a way that puts most of its food permanently out of reach of its own jaws. Every other tall animal solved this the obvious way. The giraffe grew a neck. The elephant couldn't, and the reason it couldn't is the reason it has a trunk instead. Because the trunk isn't a bonus feature, it's a workaround. It's what evolution reached for when the simple answer was already off the table. Elephants weren't always like this. Their earliest ancestors were nothing special, pig-sized animals with an ordinary head, an ordinary neck, and no trunk at all. They ate the way everything else ate. They lowered their heads and took a mouthful. Then they got bigger. That's the whole story, and every complication follows from it. Getting bigger is a good strategy for a plant eater. A larger body can process poorer food, survive longer between meals, and shrug off most predators. So over millions of years they scaled up, but when the body grows, the head has to grow with it. A bigger animal needs bigger teeth to grind more plant matter, and grinding teeth need a bigger jaw to hold them, and a bigger skull to anchor the muscles that work them. Add tusks, which are teeth that never stopped growing, and the head becomes something enormous. And now there's a problem, because a heavy head has to be held up by a neck. Here's the thing about necks. A neck is a lever, and the weight at the end of a lever doesn't just get heavier as the lever gets longer. It gets harder to hold in a way that runs away from you. Hold a bag of sugar against your chest, and you can stand there all day. Hold the same bag at arm's length, and your shoulder burns within a minute. The bag hasn't changed. The distance has. So an animal has two ways to be tall and still eat off the floor. Grow a long neck and keep the head light, or keep the neck short and accept that the head is out of range. The giraffe took the first road. Its skull is remarkably light for its size, and its neck is a long, strong column of just 7 vertebrae, the same number as yours, driven by huge muscles anchored between its shoulder blades. The elephant couldn't take that road because its head was already committed. Those grinding molars and those tusks are not optional extras. They're the reason the animal can eat at all. Put a skull that heavy on the end of a long neck, and the mechanics stop working. The muscles required to lift it would be larger than the animal could carry, and every movement of the head would become a fight. So the neck went the other way. It got shorter and thicker, bracing the skull close to the body where it's cheap to hold up, which solves the weight problem completely and leaves the animal with its mouth 4 or 5 feet above everything it wants to eat. Now watch what evolution does, because it doesn't build a new limb. It never does. It takes something already there and gives it a second job. The elephant had a nose and an upper lip. Both sit at the front of the face, both are made of soft tissue, and neither was doing much. Over millions of years they fused and extended into a single organ. That's all a trunk is, a nose and a top lip stretched until they reach the ground. Except stretching a nose creates a problem of its own, and it's a serious one. Every limb you've ever used works because muscles pull against bones. Your bicep can lift because it has a rigid rod to pull on. Without a skeleton, muscles have nothing to work against, and pulling on something soft just squashes it. The trunk has no bones, not one along its entire length, no joints either. The way around this is a trick your body already uses, and you're using it now. Your tongue has no bones. Neither does an octopus arm. Muscle tissue is mostly water, and water can't be squeezed into a smaller space. So if muscles are packed densely enough and pull in enough directions, they can brace against each other. Squeeze in one direction, and the tissue is forced to extend in another. The muscle becomes its own skeleton. Biologists call it a muscular hydrostat, and the elephant's trunk is the largest one on Earth. Then there's the part that makes it strange rather than merely clever. That trunk is the elephant's only airway. It cannot breathe through its mouth, which means the animal's food-gathering limb, its water carrier, its social tool, and its most delicate instrument are all the same organ as its windpipe, and damage to it is not an inconvenience but a death sentence. And it doesn't come free. A calf is hopeless with its trunk for months, swinging it about, tripping over it, sucking it for comfort the way a human infant sucks a thumb. Most animals are born knowing how to use their bodies. An elephant has to serve an apprenticeship on its own face, which brings us back to that elephant standing in the grass it can't bite. It doesn't need to bite it. It reaches down with a limb that can lift around 350 kilograms, the better part of a small car, and, moments later, use the same limb to pick up one blade of grass or crack a peanut shell without harming the nut inside. That range, from tree uprooting force to fingertip precision in one organ, is what the boneless design buys, and it's why the numbers everyone quotes are so strange. You've probably heard the trunk contains 40,000 muscles. It doesn't. When researchers scanned one properly and counted, what they found was roughly 90,000 muscle fascicles, bundles of fibers, packed into what is technically a single muscle. About 8,000 of those bundles are crammed into the tip alone, which is why the tip does the delicate work. Precision doesn't come from more force. It comes from dividing the same tissue into smaller and smaller pieces, each one steerable on its own. Drinking works the same way. An elephant does not suck water up the trunk and into its throat like a straw. It draws around 10 liters into the trunk, holds it there, curls the trunk into its mouth, and squirts. The trunk is a bucket that happens to be attached to its face, and the two species tell you the story is still being written. African elephants have two finger-like tips at the end. Asian elephants have one. Same problem, same solution, two slightly different answers, still diverging. The tidy version of this story is that elephants grew big, so they grew a trunk. The fossil record is messier. For a long stretch, their ancestors elongated the lower jaw instead, pushing it forward into a kind of shovel, with only a stubby trunk above it. Then the climate shifted. Forests opened into grassland, and the animals that thrived were the ones whose trunks could grasp. The long jaw shrank back. The nose took over, which is the thing worth keeping. Evolution had no plan to build a trunk. It had an animal that got too big to bend down, a neck that couldn't get longer, and a nose that happened to be in the right place. That's the pattern almost everywhere you look. Not the best solution to the problem, but the best solution reachable from where the animal already stood. Your tongue works the same way as that trunk. So does an octopus arm. 3 animals, no shared plan. The same answer arrived at 3 separate times, because when you need something strong and precise and you have no bone to give it, packed muscle and trapped water is the only physics available. The elephant didn't get a better neck. It got a nose that learned to be a hand.